What's up? If you're watching this video, you want to learn how to animate UI elements in Code.org's AppLab, and before we get into it, I'm just going to show you an example just so you know what you're getting yourself into. This is going to be part 1 of a 3 or 4 part series because I've created expansions to this library. So by the end of this tutorial series, you should be able to create relatively fancy looking games within a small amount of code. So let's just this one where you place products on a conveyor belt and ramp up your score. For that, I'm going to get into the basics of tweening and how to put it in your projects. So tweening is the generation of frames in between a start and an end point, basically animating them. And what I've done is I've created a library that allows you to do that pretty easily. So the main library we're going to use here is TweenService. All of these library codes will be in the description. So just click on Manage Libraries, import from ID, and add. Product should reload, and now if you type TweenService, you should see a plethora of functions. Now we'll get into these because there is a lot of functionality of them, but first we have to drag in a couple of UI elements. So to make this simple, I'm gonna just create let's drag in a couple buttons, and we're just gonna set up a couple on events. Okay, so now that we have the on events, I'm gonna make it to where when button 1 is clicked, I'm going to move it down. If we want to move it down like this, what we're gonna have to do is just edit the Y block. So we're gonna go tweenService.create. Create is the main function, and yes, this looks very long. That's because there's a lot that you can customize with it, but there's a couple different ways you can actually create the tween. If we do it in the most basic way, you would just start by putting in the element ID. So in this case, that would be button 1. The property, we want to edit the Y. Final dimension. Final dimension will be probably somewhere down here. So if you look right here, it's like, we could do like 410. Time. Let's do 0.4 seconds. Style. Style is something that may take a little bit to understand fully, but what it is basically how fast the tween will go in certain points. So it would be this GIF created by Aussie Pig. It sort of shows how it all looks. So this is how they all basically look. Balance and elastic are currently not supported. I was thinking of adding them eventually, not right now. I usually just use quad because I just feel like it looks the best. Direction, I believe out starts off fast and gets slower at the end. Yes. In and out is currently not supported, but out and in are supported. So this is basically how the button will move. If it's linear, then this doesn't apply, but you still have to put one anyways. So currently we have it applied to button 1. It's Y property. It's going to go to 410 in 0.4 seconds, and it's going to be the quad out easing style. So the next is operation. Operation will just apply what you currently have here to the current property of it. So the way we would do that is either putting a plus or a minus. So if we did a minus, I'm gonna actually just run this so you can see. If we did a minus, post recording me here for operation, if you want it to go up, make it minus and then just put a plus. That works the best. As you can see here, it'll adjust based off what it currently is, or you can just remove the plus and it'll, go down like that. This also works with any other property. So we're not gonna have that for now, so we can just put undefined. FPS is how smooth the frame will look. Higher FPS will be way more taxing on performance. I generally have it at like 30 to 60, but less FPS will make it look more choppy. So if we run this at 3 FPS, you can see it, doesn't look very good. But if we run it at 60 FPS, it looks way smoother. So if you don't provide an FPS, I believe the default is 30. So if you don't provide it, it shouldn't look too bad, but we'll just have it at 60 for now. Database is optional. Database will add this tween to a database so you can better manage them, but we'll get into that later. So for now, put that as undefined. Bezier object, betterUI. For now, put that as undefined. We'll get into those in different tutorials. So now you can see the basics of it, and we can even copy this, change this to button 2, change out. So you can see the difference. So you can definitely see the difference between the two easing styles. But this does bring up a problem. If you want to create multiple tweens, you're gonna have to type out all these parameters, which, you know, would suck. So instead, what you can do is create a tween object. What this tween object can do is store all the properties you want in it, and you don't have to define the properties you don't want. So for this, we just put item, property, final dimension, actually I believe this is just style, and direction. Oh, actually, I do realize I made an error. These should be colons. So this is completely valid, but it will just have only one item. So this could work if you go over here, delete this, and instead just pass in tween object. It should do the exact same thing. So these actually do need all to be not capital. So, you know, that completely works. That's kind of useless because if you wanted to tween button 2 with this, you already have item defined. So we can actually just remove that and keep all the other settings and then pass in just the item ID. So in this case, that would be button 1. We can delete all of this, make this tween object, and it should still work. So that can make it way easier to manage. But now for some of the other functions. So if we go here, you see create, skip all tweens, stop all tweens, and create database. Let's do create database. Name doesn't really matter. It's just so you can better organize and see what it is. But here, for this, I'll just put my database. So this is going to do absolutely nothing. You need to assign this to a variable. And actually put in the keyword new. So you can see, again, nothing happens, but we have initialized the database here. So if we just go ahead and print this database out, we'll see a couple good things here. So we can see here, this contains tweens playing, stop all tweens, stop tween, skip all tweens, my database, or the name, skip tween, tween values, IDs, tween properties, tween FPS. Stop all tweens is going to stop every tween in the database. Stop tween will stop a specific tween in the database. Skip all tweens will skip all tweens in the database. And skip tween will skip the provided tween in the database. The difference between stop and skip is stop will stop where it's at, while skip will skip to its final dimension. And these arrays, which I'm noticing are actually not very well named, tweens playing generally don't mess with, because it contains the loop ID, and I can't really think of any time you would want that. If you want the ID of the element you're tweening, you would want to look in IDs. Tween values, I believe, is the final dimension. Tween properties is the property that's being tweened, and tween FPS is the frames per second. So if we wanted to create a tween here, so make a new object. So for this object, I'm just going to have the two basic things you need, which is property and findim. We'll provide the element ID when we call the function, and then we're just going to put in, I believe it's actually database. So in this database, we'll just put my database. Then we'll create the tween, add in button 1, then object, and then we're going to print the database. So you can see here, now each array has one value. Why? 30, button 1, 410, and a loop ID. But if I'll just set this button also printed out, and if we rerun it, wait for it to finish, and then click it, you should see the arrays are empty. Because after the tween finishes, it'll remove it from the database, and it'll add last tween, which is the loop ID of the last tween played. So now let's get into some of the methods here. So let's do my database dot, let's do stop tween button 1. So you see it'll just stop after 2 seconds. That shouldn't be happening. I'll fix that, but you can see, you know, it works. And then if we do skip tween and do it, it'll skip to the very end. Then we could also do stop. I believe it's stop all tweens. And let's just create a new one for button 2 and then run it. You see it'll stop both. My database.skip all tweens should work as, yeah. It'll skip every tween there. You can also, instead of using the methods, you could also just use TweenService dot stop all tweens or skip all tweens. It works the exact same way, you just have to pass in the database. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick tutorial. If you can't import libraries in your project, feel free to just go into the library and copy and paste it like that. It shouldn't be too hard, but you also may be wondering some of the other properties you can work with. You can work with pretty much anything that's numerical, I believe, with, you know, it'll do its thing with the width. You could do height. It'll do the same thing. I'm gonna look at what other numerical things they have. Border, radius. Does that work? Oh, that does work. I did not. Font size work too? That does. Okay, I was actually unaware of that until this moment. Oh, border width. That's crazy. I actually did not know you could even do that. Yeah, I should work with anything like that. But that's the basics of tweening. In the next episode, I will probably get into Bezier curves, which are animating like this, except you can make them like actual curves. So let me know if you guys want that. Alright, see you next time.